Hi everyone, this is Dr. Vaughn. I made a video yesterday, but it was too long or something. It's not really uploading, and so I thought I'd make a new one and have it be a little bit shorter. First, I want to do at least one question from chapter 10.3, which I believe is your homework due today. I have it pulled up here. This is number 11. I did number 10 in the previous video, and if you need help with that one, just let me know because I've already completed it. But this one looks fairly complicated. You got cube roots and lots of big powers and x's and y's and everything going around. So I've copied it over here onto the whiteboard, and I'd like to walk through exactly how I do these kinds of problems. So the first thing I'm going to do, because they're both cube roots, is combine this together into one big cube root. And I'm going to put all the numbers together. So 9 and 3 is now going to give me 27. And then I'm going to take the 4 x's and the one more x to get 5 x's. And then I'm going to take the 6 y's here and the 2 y over there to get 8 y's altogether. Now I'm going to deal with the number part, the x part, and the y part separately. So first I'm going to look at 27. Now 27 actually is a perfect cube. Well, let's say I didn't even know that. So I could just do a factor tree over here. 27 is 3 times 9, and 9 is 3 times 3. Okay, so now it's completely factored. And what I'm looking for, because it's a cube root, is I'm looking for triples. So here's a triple, and then there's nothing left over. So you could just think of that as being 1. So every time I have 3 of the same factor inside, that means it's going to be one version of that outside. So the cube root of the 27 is going to give me a 3 outside of the cube root. Now, if there was a number left over here, like a 2 or a 5 or another 3 even, that I didn't get a triple of, then that number would be left underneath the cube root, and there's just nothing I can do about it. So I can only pull out things that come in 3s because of the cube root. And if it's a square root, I can only pull out things that come in 2s. And I get one of them when I pull it out. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the x's. So there's no number left underneath. Now I'm going to look at the x's. Cube root of x to the 5th. So I'm going to split that into a multiple of 3, and the biggest multiple of 3 with something left over. So again, I'm looking for triples of x's. Now, if there were 6 of them, then I'd have 2 sets of 3 x's. Here I have 1 set of 3 x's, and these are the leftover amounts. So those 3 x's under the radical is going to become 1x when it comes outside. And this x squared, there's nothing I can do with it. It's just going to be left underneath the radical. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the y's. So the y's, I'm going to split into the biggest multiple of 3. The biggest multiple of 3 is going to be 6, and that'll be 2 y's left over after that. 6 plus 2 gets me to the 8. So these 6 y's, when I take the cube root, is going to be 2 sets of 3. So I'm going to get y squared outside. And this y squared is what was left underneath here. Okay, so here is my simplified radical expression. And we just dealt with the numbers, the x's and the y's separately after putting them all together first. Let's see how I did. I'll type the answer in over here. 3x y squared. Then I'll use this little radical button. Make sure I put the index in here for the cube root. And underneath, I'll type x squared and y squared. I always pause just to make sure that what I typed matches what I have on my screen. Yes, it looks good. And then I'll check my answer. Okay, so that was one of the questions from 10.3. I think all of this section pretty much works the same way. You're simplifying products and quotients of radical expressions by first combining them together and then pulling out the biggest powers thereof. Some of the earlier ones in this section are doing that same thing, but without having 2 pieces, they just give you 1 piece and have you simplify those radical expressions. The second topic that I wanted to go over on this short video is just quiz. So I'm going to go all the way back to your assignments here, and we're going to look at the quiz for this week. The quiz is 60 minutes long, and you get 2 attempts at it, and you're only going to keep the best of those 2 attempts. So you want to make sure that you've give yourself enough time before the due date in order to take the quiz, look at how you did on it, learn from your mistakes if you made any, and then have time to take the quiz a second time. So right now I'm on the kind of the student version of the quiz, but this also tells you a little bit about what you can expect. There are 15 questions, you get 2 attempts at it, and you're limited to 60 minutes for each one of those 2 attempts. And then you just start your test and it'll go on. It won't tell you whether you got each question right or wrong until you get to the very end. And you'll submit the entire quiz, and then it'll go through and it'll tell you out of those 15 questions which ones you got right, which ones you got partially right, and which ones you got wrong. So then you can learn from that and go take your quiz your second time, use your second attempt. I would wait in between, make sure you use that time wisely. What I'm going to do is go into a slightly different view of the quiz, and I want to show you one other thing about it. And that is that the questions that you're going to see on the quiz, and I'm going to show you what the topics of those questions are, but the questions that you're going to get on the quiz are going to be very, very similar, if not exactly the same, as the ones that you saw on the homework. So the best way that you can get ready for doing well on the quiz before you actually take the first quiz is to go back and do the homework over again. Again, you'll never do worse on the homework, and as long as you have access to it, reviewing your homework in my math lab is the very best way that you can get ready for the quiz. The way in which you type things in, the way in which the questions are stated, the kinds of unique things that'll drive you crazy on the homework in my math lab are the kinds of things you want to work out before you ever get into that quiz attempt. So of course this is being really slow. Let's see. All right, here we go. So I'm going to go into what's called the assignment manager. This is a kind of behind the scenes view that your instructor gets to go into. And from here, I'll navigate down to the quiz. Here's your quiz, section 10.1. That's this week. And I'm going to go to list the questions. So these are the exact questions that are going to be on your quiz. And each one of these has a question ID, and the question ID tells you which chapter and section it comes from. So this is from chapter 10, section 1, and it's question number 43. And then chapter 10, question 2, chapter 10, section 2, question number 77, and so forth. So this question that we just did over here is 10.3.75. And if we go over here, you can see that that 10.3.75 is the exact question that's on your quiz for number 15. Now, the numbers might be different. You might have a 4th root or a 5th root. You might have 16 here instead of a 9. You might have x to the 5th or y to the cubed. But the kind of question that we just did on our homework practice here is going to be the very same as the question that you're going to see on the exam. And the other thing I wanted to show you in this view here is the estimated time. So it's estimating that it's going to take you 21 minutes and 49 seconds to do these 15 questions. And there's some of them that are ranked moderate, most of them, 5 that are ranked hard, and 1 that's marked easy. There's none that are very hard. So this is a typical kind of distribution for a quiz. And I just wanted to say, this is not how long I think it should take you how to do the exam. This is how long actual students who have been doing these questions over lots of, thousands of students use Pearson and this software to do their math. This is how long they've, taken to do this in the past. So I'm not suggesting that you try to complete your quiz in 20 minutes. You have 60 minutes to do it, and I believe you should take your time. And I think you should have paper out and be working through these things. But I don't think you have enough time to go look up in the book how to do one of these questions. So you want to make sure you're prepared. I know how to do all these kinds of things. Have your paper out, put everything else away, make sure it's a quiet environment, and then sit down and take your quiz for the first time with confidence. And then know that, if you don't do as well as you'd hoped, you have time to learn from those mistakes and prepare and use that second attempt. And it'll only keep your better score. Even if you do well the first time, you should take it a second time because you'll never do worse. All right, I'm going to end this video at this point. Hopefully it's a little shorter, and hopefully I can get this uploaded soon. Talk to you later.